Good morning. I call this hearing to order. This is my first hearing as chairman of the Subcommittee on Agriculture, Energy, and Trade, and I look forward to working with Ranking Member Meng on issues of concern to small businesses. The United States is one of the top producers of citrus in the world. Florida, my home state, is the largest producing area, followed by California, Texas, and Arizona. Within these states, citrus is both economically and culturally significant. It fuels the economy, and for many growers and their families, it is a way of life passed down from one generation to another. Citrus is a valuable United States crop. For the 2013-2014 season, its value was $3.39 billion, and a recent University of Florida study found that the total economic impact of the citrus industry in the state of Florida for fiscal year 2012-2013 was $10.68 billion. However, this United States economic powerhouse is facing significant challenges. The acreage and production of citrus are down, particularly in Florida, which is ground zero for a deadly bacterial disease that destroys citrus trees. Huanglongbing, which is also referred to as HLB or citrus greening, is a devastating citrus disease that has been found in Florida, Texas, and California. In addition, the insect that spreads HLB has been found in 15 states and United States territories. HLB, along with other current challenges, in particular the Mexican fruit fly in Texas and the drought in California, are making it more difficult and costly to produce citrus. Faced with these challenges, small citrus growers, which comprise 90% of citrus farms and other small businesses in the citrus industry, are struggling to stay profitable and to stay in business. Today, we will be hearing from witnesses from Florida, California, and Texas who will explain how the current challenges are affecting small citrus growers and other businesses within the citrus industries in their states. I want to thank all the witnesses for taking time away from their businesses and families and for appearing before the committee today. With that, I yield to the ranking member, Ms. Meng, for her opening statement.
Good morning. I want to thank our Chairman Corbello and his team for putting together such an important hearing. As a member from New York State with, I'm sure, a high consumption of citrus products, I'm very excited to learn more about how the federal government can be of help towards our small businesses. Agriculture remains a critical part in our nation's economy, supporting more than 16 million jobs nationwide. American farmers are the best at what they do when given the opportunity to compete on an even playing field. However, the challenges farmers face are not limited to factors under their control. Unpredictable weather conditions and stubborn pests and disease wreak significant impacts on our producers' bottom line. Many parts of the country are still suffering from persistent drought conditions. Pests and diseases are continuing to pose significant threats to plants and their respective industries, as we are witnessing with citrus greening. However, investments in agriculture research help mitigate these impacts, both environmentally and economically, and prepare producers for future adverse conditions. While the United States may not be the world's largest producer of citrus, it plays a substantial role in producing citrus products sold domestically and abroad. Citrus exports in 2012 alone totaled over $1 billion, and the value of the 2013 to 2014 crop was estimated to be nearly $3.5 billion, proving the importance the industry plays in creating jobs and growing our nation's economy. But U.S. orange production forecast is down slightly due to projected production declines in Florida and California. This trend is largely due to citrus greening, a devastating disease caused by the Asian citrus psyllid. To date, there is no permanent solution to this horrible infestation that is slowly spreading across America's citrus groves. The entire citrus industry has taken a major blow since the disease was first identified. It has caused a loss of millions of boxes of oranges and thousands of acres of abandoned and tainted groves. Citrus greening has taken a particularly hard toll on small citrus operations as they are more sensitive to the costs of the infestation. Such costs can include pesticides, quarantines, fertilizers, and replanting of trees. To make matters worse, these hardworking farmers face other challenges corresponding with citrus greening: droughts, freezes, hurricanes, port labor disputes, and other citrus pests. The barriers to operating their business have become so cumbersome and financially burdensome that many smaller operations are questioning the future of the citrus industry. In fact, some smaller operations are struggling with the decision to keep hope alive for the citrus operations, or throwing in the towel and planting new crops or selling land to developers. These decisions are troubling to many besides just the growers, as the industry supports jobs in the packing, trade, and grocery sectors. Because citrus operations generate jobs not only for themselves but for different sectors of the economy, addressing the challenges facing this industry will not only keep America producing jobs, but it will also continue to create jobs and gross domestic product in the future. Today's hearing will give us the opportunity to learn more about the citrus industry in general and what the future holds for them as we combat pests, disease, and climate issues. Though this issue is one concerning many stakeholders, from local counties to numerous federal agencies, we must hear from the small businesses on the front line of the issue. And today we'll do just that in hopes of finding ways to assist them in preserving the future of a quintessential fruit and breakfast drink. We are here today to learn more about what the federal government is doing to assist your small citrus businesses and what more is required. In order to ensure the success of our self-employed, we must understand the challenges facing this industries. I thank all the witnesses for being here today, and I look forward to your comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Thank you, Ms. Meng. If additional committee members have an opening statement prepared, I ask that they be submitted for the record. I'd also like to take a moment to explain the timing lights for you. You will each have 5 minutes to deliver your testimony. The light will start out as green. When you have 1 minute remaining, the light will turn yellow. And finally, it will turn red at the end of your 5 minutes. I ask that you try to adhere to the time limit. Our first witness is Kevin Severns, a second-generation navel orange grower. He is the owner of Severns Farms, a 40-acre citrus growing operation in Sanger, California. Mr. Severns also serves as the general manager of the Orange Cove Sanger Citrus Association, a cooperative citrus packing house, and serves on the California Citrus Pest and Disease Prevention Committee. He is testifying on behalf of California Citrus Mutual, trade association that represents California's citrus growers, and currently serves as the organization's chairman of the board. Mr. Severns, thank you for being here today. Next, I'm pleased to introduce a fellow Floridian, Larry Black. He is the general manager of Peace River Packing Company, a small citrus packing operation in Fort Meade, Florida, and a fifth-generation Florida citrus grower. Mr. Black is the current president of Florida Citrus Mutual, a trade association that represents the Florida citrus industry, and also serves on the board of the Citrus Research and Development Foundation. Previously, he served as president of the Polk County Farm Bureau. He is testifying on behalf of Florida Citrus Mutual. Mr. Black, thank you very much for being here today. Our third witness is Dale Merton, the president of Texas Citrus Mutual, the grower association representing Texas citrus industry. He also owns and operates a cattle and citrus operation in the lower Rio Grande Valley of Texas. This year, Mr. Merton became president of Texas Citrus Mutual. Previously, he had managed Rio Farms, a unique nonprofit farming and agriculture operation, for 25 years. Mr. Merton also currently serves as the executive director of Texas Citrus Pest and Disease Management Association and has a long history of serving the Texas agriculture industry. Mr. Merton, thank you very much for being here today. I now yield to the ranking member for the introduction of our final witness.
It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Michael Rogers, the Interim Center Director and Associate Professor of Entomology and Nematology at the University of Florida's Citrus Research and Education Center. He is a preeminent scholar on citrus integrated pest management. He received his Ph.D. in entomology from the University of Kentucky and his B.S. from Auburn University. Welcome, Dr. Rogers.
We are pleased to have a distinguished panel of witnesses from the major citrus-producing states and look forward to hearing from all of you. Mr. Severns, you may begin.
Chairman Curbelo and Ranking Member Meng, thank you for the opportunity to testify today on the challenges that small citrus growers such as myself are facing. Defining a small citrus grower is not easy. Years ago, a 40-acre citrus grower could make a reasonably good living. Today, it probably takes 300 acres or more to stay in business farming citrus. 50 years ago, growers did not have to deal with issues like good agricultural practices, gap audits, in other words, use reports, employee safety training, farm equipment emission certifications, and such as that. Today, it's just part of the normal operations. Outside help and consultation is required, and it's not free. Please consider that California supplies 85% of the United States fresh citrus and has done so for nearly 150 years. Today, we have about 3,500 growers, about 100 packing houses, and probably 12,000 or more employees that work nearly year-round. We sell citrus in 50 states and many countries worldwide. The major citrus-producing states represented here do what the other states cannot. We produce citrus fruits for the rest of the nation and the world on a year-round basis. We must keep this vibrant industry healthy. Not very long ago, California had 285,000 total acres. That number is more like 270,000 today, with more scheduled to be bulldozed this summer. The number of small citrus growers is significantly declining in California. It would appear that the small-scale citrus growers and, in a parallel sense, all citrus growers might have a place on their own endangered species list. We have to consider the possibility of no more U.S. citrus. We need to ask ourselves, do we want a citrus industry? U.S.-grown citrus has a superb record as a healthy, safe, nutritious, and affordable product, yet it could easily disappear from our store shelves. Invasive pests and diseases, drought, misguided water policy, international trade issues, and the convergence of all of these have brought our industry into perilous times. In California, we have watched Florida's decline in production due to Huanglongbing, or HLB. For a citrus tree, HLB is a death sentence. In California, we have the bug, the Asian citrus psyllid, what we refer to as the ACP, that spreads HLB, but so far, no HLB. The task before us is to keep the ACP away from potentially infectious trees and also to remove those trees before HLB can gain a foothold. Through our industry-funded surveys, we found a single tree in Southern California that tested positive for HLB. That tree was removed, and all citrus nearby continues to test negative for HLB. That tree had been grafted by a hobby gardener with illegally transported budwood cut from an HLB-infected tree overseas. Such actions could easily destroy a $2.4 billion industry, and that's just in California. We have appealed to residential citrus tree owners to work with us in watching for ACP and the disease. Controlling the ACP has been a challenge in the Los Angeles basin. Most backyards in the area have citrus trees growing in them. San Joaquin Valley and the northern citrus-producing counties have had to deal with occasional small populations of ACP detections in some citrus groves. Growers are aggressive about treating detections, but doing so is expensive. Citrus trees can be infected with HLB for 2 or 3 years before beginning to decline. By quickly removing any tree that tests positive for HLB, we may buy time to give the industry researchers an opportunity to find a solution to the disease. In September of 2011, the California Citrus Pest and Disease Prevention Committee, or CPDPC, was formed to implement statewide suppression and eradication efforts. For the program, all California growers are assessed for every 40-pound carton produced. Over the past 5+ years, $15 million have been collected annually to pay for the work of the CPDPC. The California Department of Food and Agriculture performs regulatory work, trapping, testing, and treatment programs across the state on our behalf. Jumping ahead to water, The drought and the water situation in California is beyond critical. While the lack of normal rainfall is a disaster, so are the misguided environmental policies affecting our state. Some growers are going into their second year of zero allocation of surface water. If available, the cost of water has gone from around $200 per acre foot to as much as $1,300 per acre foot. That's a 650% increase. And I see I'm out of time. I'll just finally say that all of these issues, in addition to others, are converging in order to make it very difficult for the small citrus grower to continue to survive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Severance. Mr. Black.
Chairman Corbello and Ranking Member Ming, good morning. I'm Larry Black, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you on behalf of the 6,000. I'm current president of Florida Citrus Mutual and also general manager of Peace River Packing Company, a family citrus business. Our family settled in the Central Florida area and began growing citrus in the 1850s. Our company employs 185 Floridians and is the largest employer in the small community of Fort Meade. The citrus industry is a powerful economic engine contributing over $10 billion annually to the Florida's economy and provides over 62,000 jobs. The Florida citrus industry covers over 515,000 acres and is the largest agriculture crop produced in the state. The industry is rich in traditions and truly a way of life for my family and many other multi-generational family farms around the state. At our industry's peak just 12 years ago, we produced over 240 million boxes of oranges on just under 800,000 acres of groves. Today, the USDA forecast we will harvest only 96.4 million boxes of oranges, 60% less than our peak harvest. Some of the decrease in acreage is due to the development boom and a series of hurricanes of the last decade. The vast majority of production losses are due to Humlong-Bing, or known as HLB or citrus greening. HLB is a bacteria that attacks the vascular system of the tree and is spread by an insect vector known as the Asian citrus psyllid. Neither HLB nor the Asian citrus psyllid are native to Florida or even the United States. The psyllid was first detected in Florida in the late 1990s. HLB was first detected in Florida in 2005, and estimates indicate over 90% of the trees in Florida are now infected. HLB weakens and eventually kills the trees. The lower productivity of the trees have forced growers to abandon over 130,000 acres of citrus groves. Growers are learning how to extend the productive life of the infected trees, but production costs have more than doubled due to HLB. Orange juice prices have increased for consumers because supplies are strained and the cost of production has skyrocketed. Higher prices and competition from other beverages has resulted in per capita orange juice consumption being reduced by 50%. I'm confident that consumption trends will reverse as research delivers solutions that will increase yields on our groves and the per unit cost of production will decline. Growers knew early that HLB was a monumental threat to our industry and a massive research effort began. Citrus growers have taxed themselves and have spent over $90 million over the last 9 years to fund research. The Florida State Legislature has appropriated more than $20 million for the fight against HLB. The 2014 Farm Bill authorized $125 million over 5 years for citrus research funding through a competitive grant process. On behalf of citrus growers across the country, thank you for recognizing the need for a long-term funding source for the research needed to solve the HLB crisis that threatens the citrus industries in Florida, California, and Texas. Growers are working together to coordinate sprays to control the psyllid that spreads HLB. Antimicrobials and heat therapy appear to be possible near-term solutions to improve the productivity and extend the life of our trees. Plant breeders are working to develop varieties of citrus and rootstocks that are tolerant of HLB. It is apparent a massive replanting of the citrus industry is required in Florida. Economists estimate the Florida industry needs to plant 20 million trees over the next 10 years to reverse the decline and stabilize the Florida industry. Our company has replanted over 350,000 trees over the last 3 years using the latest production technologies available. I'm confident we will bring these trees into production and we will be rewarded for the risk we are taking. The USDA has authorized the Tree Assistance Program, or TAP, to aid growers with replanting efforts. The TAP program is a cost-share program that reimburses growers a portion of the tree cost. The citrus industry is a core part of America's agricultural heritage. 62,000 Floridians produce a nutritious product that is part of a healthy diet. The industry is comprised of small family farms and associated businesses. The industry also supports many associated businesses ranging from vehicle and farm equipment dealers, banks, insurance companies, etc. I'm confident our industry will manage through the current crisis and emerge as even a stronger industry. Again, thank you for your support funding the much-needed research. Please consider incentives for growers to replant and other assistance to grow small businesses as they emerge from this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Black. Mr. Merton, you are now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member Ming. On behalf of the over 400 commercial citrus growers in Texas, I want to express my appreciation to you for convening this hearing today to learn more about the challenges facing the United States citrus industry and our many small family-owned growers. My name is Dale Merton. My family and I currently grow citrus and raise cattle near my hometown in Harlingen, Texas. In addition to being president of Texas Citrus Mutual, I'm also a current member of the Board of Directors of the Texas Farm Bureau. The Texas citrus industry is comprised of almost 27,000 acres across a 3-county area in the lower Rio Grande Valley. Our growers produce more than 9 million cartons of fresh grapefruit and oranges each year, and another 5 million cartons of juice fruit, all valued at over $100 million. Texas is the 3rd largest citrus producing state behind California and Florida. The total business activity supporting Texas citrus production is valued at $200 million annually. I know this pales in comparison to my larger counterparts, but to my fellow growers, it's worth fighting for. Currently, the industry employs up to 3,000 workers in a normal producing year, which culminates with the harvesting period from October to May. My testimony today will focus on 2 critical and pressing issues facing growers in the Rio Grande Valley. I'll discuss the potential economic devastation due to the invasion of the Mexican fruit fly from south of the border, as well as the rampant spread of Huanglong bean, also known as HLB or citrus greening. What sets Texas apart from my colleagues in California and Florida is our proximity to Mexico and its porous border. In addition to invasive pests coming from the south, USDA has estimated that there are conservatively over 500,000 citrus trees in backyards and private homes valley-wide. And we all love to grow our lemon and lime trees, and real proud we can do that. But these trees pose a very significant threat to the commercial industry, and when left untreated, provide a safe harbor for fruit flies and the Asian citrus psyllid. The Mexican fruit fly, or Mex fly, is a fly originally found in parts of Central America that has now spread beyond the border into the lower Rio Grande Valley of Texas. The Mex fly is a problem for citrus fruits, which are extremely susceptible to infestation. Economic losses result from direct damage caused by the larvae that feed on the fruit pulp. Since 1986, Texas has participated in a fruit fly control program headed by APHIS to eradicate the fruit fly from Texas and the Mexican state of Tamaulipas. In 2012, APHIS thought they had successfully eradicated the Mex fly, but recently, due to continued violence along the border, aging USDA rearing facilities, untreated backyard citrus trees, the Mex fly has been found once again in our region. This year proved especially hard for one small grove operation in Brownsville after a Mexican fruit fly was found in a neighboring backyard tree. The discovery triggered a quarantine, and the grower was no longer able to harvest his crop for the year, leaving thousands of dollars of inventory on the trees with no hope for harvest. The problem is now reaching crisis levels. Since January 2014, there have been fruit fly quarantine areas off and on in the entire citrus growing region of South Texas. Now, while the Mex fly poses a real and immediate threat, the recent finds of HLB, or citrus greening, has growers of all sizes in South Texas extremely concerned. There's no known cure for this disease, and we've learned from our friends in Florida that this disease is deadly serious. Greening was first discovered in a Texas grove in January of 2012. 3.5 short years later, we've confirmed trees located in almost 100 groves valley-wide. With the extremely long latency period of this disease, it's really unclear how many more trees have already been infected. What this has done to growers in terms of dollars is hard to quantify. When it was first discovered in Texas, we removed not only the infected tree, but several of the surrounding trees as well. Today, positive HLB finds have become so widespread that most growers have discontinued tree removal. As such, it has quickly become a numbers game and a point of diminishing returns that keeps spreading throughout the industry. In a desperate attempt to mitigate the effects of HLB, most growers have initiated psyllid spray programs to slow the spread of infestation until a cure can be found. This strategy is an addition to our regular care programs and has already increased our grove care expenses by almost $400 per acre. Federal investments in HLB research and ACP eradication programs are also very critical to the survivability of the citrus industry in the United States, and as such, we've requested full funding under 2 high-priority citrus programs, the Citrus Health Response Program and the Huanglong Bing Multi-Agency Coordination. I'd like to again thank you for your attention today on these issues. In short, the United States citrus industry, as you know it, is in extreme trouble. We are fighting to preserve our very way of life and are doing everything in our power to prevent total eradication of an essential industry. Thanks again, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Merton. And now, Dr. Rogers, you're recognized.
Chairman Carbello, Ranking Member Ming, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about the impacts of citrus greening on Florida's citrus industry. My name is Michael Rogers, and I'm an Associate Professor of Entomology at the University of Florida, where I serve as Interim Director of the Citrus Research and Education Center. Now, citrus greening disease is caused by a bacterium that is spread tree to tree by an insect known as the Asian citrus psyllid. When a psyllid carrying the bacteria feeds on a citrus tree, it injects the disease-causing bacteria, which destroys the vascular system, causing a prolonged and slow death of the tree. Long before the trees completely succumb to the disease, citrus fruit are reduced in size and quality, making them unusable for juice or as for fresh fruit. After a tree has been infected for several years, the trees can no longer hold the fruit on the tree, and most of the potentially harvestable fruit that growers have spent thousands of dollars per acre to grow drop prematurely from the tree to the ground before it's ready to be picked. Since 2005, greening has spread to every grove in Florida, infecting most, if not all, of the fruit-bearing trees to date. As a result, the 2015 orange harvest is predicted to be 96.4 million boxes, and this is down from 240 million boxes in 2003, and is the smallest Florida orange crop since 1966. The future is uncertain for the Florida citrus industry and the 62,000 jobs that it supports. While there are many potential research solutions being developed that hold promise, putting that ultimate answer in the hands of growers is still years away. If we had a citrus tree today that we knew for certain was resistant to this disease, it would take 2 to 3 years to scale up commercial nursery production of that resistant tree for purchase by growers. Once a grower is able to actually plant that disease-resistant tree, it'll take at least 4 years for those trees to begin producing a harvestable crop, and additional years beyond that time to recover the cost required to grow the tree up to that point. This is a really discouraging prospect for the small citrus grower who currently is just struggling to stay in business. However, there are exciting new potential solutions for living with this disease, at least in the short term. These include new citrus varieties that have increased tolerance to the disease, use of heat treatments to kill the bacteria in the plant, thus extending the fruit-bearing life of the tree, and promising bactericidal compounds still being worked on that can be sprayed on the trees to eliminate the bacteria in the tree. With the majority of the citrus trees in the field today nearing death, to stay in business, growers must continue to replant new trees in their groves to maintain continuity of production. The short-term solutions available will play an important role in helping growers do just that. However, with depleted financial reserves, most small growers are in desperate need of financial assistance just to stay in business another season. Citrus research programs are also being negatively affected by the reduction in fruit yields. The research funds provided by the self-imposed grower tax to the tune of $90 million over the past 10 years are starting to dry up with the fruit yields, thus threatening to impede the progress of the promising research that must be continued to provide solutions for this disease. Fortunately, the availability of new federal research funds, specifically the USDA, SCRI, and MAC programs, are providing some support for research on citrus greening. And a very sincere thank you to those who helped provide this needed funding through the Farm Bill. While these funds support some very promising research projects, there are still gaps in funding that exist for many promising areas of research previously funded by the citrus grower generated tax that are threatened to go unfunded in the future. Your financial support for further research is crucial for the future of citrus growers and the 62,000 jobs they support in Florida, but also throughout the rest of the country as well. Land-grant universities in every state are dedicated to serving the public, and federal research dollars are crucial for universities to continue their research to benefit economic development. I appreciate the opportunity to address the committee, and I extend an invitation to any members who are interested. Please contact me to arrange a visit to the CREC where you can witness firsthand the effects of this disease and the research underway to develop solutions to this problem. That concludes my formal statement, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rogers. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes, and I thank you all for your testimony. Some of the statistics that you shared are staggering, and it's very important that we're having this hearing today to shine a light on what represents a major challenge for the states represented here today, but more importantly for families that are trying to stay afloat. My first question, which is addressed to all of you, are you currently seeing or do you expect to see consolidation in the citrus industry as small growers sell or leave the industry due to the increased cost of production? This is a major concern for us on our committee because, of course, protecting small businesses and strengthening them is our goal here. Do any of you fear that we're going to see a lot of consolidation as a result of this crisis?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to address that in saying that absolutely we do. In California, the price of acreage, or what acreage can bring in general, is probably at an all-time high. And when growers are facing many of the pressures that they are, first of all, currently our largest crisis being our drought situation and the things associated with that. And on top of that, staring down the problems that could be coming as far as ACP infestations and HLB, in addition to some of the trade-related issues that are pressing on us. A small grower really has to take a look at that and see whether they want to continue to maintain production in such perilous times. So certainly we see it in California. We see those smaller growers just deciding to sell out. Some of the younger individuals are going to work for maybe some of the larger farming operations. You don't see a lot of young farmers going out buying acreage. It's nearly impossible right now. So certainly I think that is, we will continue to see consolidation unless some things change pretty radically in the near future.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak to that?
Just briefly, I would like to add that we're seeing consolidation in Florida. There remains a role for the small grower. The small grower, like every citrus grower in Florida, is struggling, but on a go-forward basis, I believe there's still a role for a small grower that's so important to the fabric and the culture of our citrus industry.
Thank you. Another question, are there ways that the USDA's Citrus Health Response Program and Multi-Agency Coordination Group could be improved? Can you help us evaluate how these programs have performed and give us some ideas as to how they can do better?
Yeah, I can.
I'll just make a couple of comments. First, we really appreciate the funding that we have received, and I was going to mention there's in particular two federal programs, the SCRI, which is providing direct research for greening through the Farm Bill. That's $125 million over a 5-year period. And then we have the MAC funds as well. And the difference between those two, the MAC funds are providing the ability for us to do research projects that provide more short-term answers that can be used more immediately by growers in the field. And this type of funding is very important. As I mentioned in my testimony, growers are having to make decisions today about going out of business. Are they going to stay in business, or are they going to give it up? And the funds from the MAC program are helping us quickly develop programs or approaches that growers can use now. While the SCRI is more long-term funding, very important science through the SCRI program, but it's more long-term in its goals. It's looking more for the ultimate down-the-road answers to this problem. And so I don't know if that answers your question any, but the MAC funding is very important for us.
Chairman.
Mr. Black.
Chairman, would also like to speak to the Citrus Health Response Program, or the Chirp funds. The Chirp program is a relatively old program that was developed to deal with another problem, citrus canker. And what's very unique about the Chirp program is it offers flexibility for each industry, Florida, California, and Texas, to tailor the program that fits their needs. As you heard this morning, each of our industries are in a much different state as they battle HLB in their groves, and so the Chirp funding provides that flexibility for each state to fit their needs and be most efficient with those dollars. And also would like to echo Dr. Rogers' comments that the MAC funding is essential to fund short-term shovel-ready type projects to get those into the growers' hands as quickly as possible.
Thank you. My time has expired. I'd like to recognize the ranking member for 5 minutes.
This question is for anyone on the panel. As you know, the SBA size standard for a small farm is $750,000 in annual receipts, which can vary significantly between the type of farm and even year based on inflation. These definitions are important because small businesses have additional resources allotted to help them succeed. And if a farm is not considered to be a small business but operates as one, that can significantly impact its ability to succeed. How does this definition help or hurt your industry? And is the current size standard an accurate reflection of the industry? Or if you had to create your own size standard, what would it be based on? Employees, acreage, receipts?
Ranking Member Ming, if I was to answer that question, I certainly don't mean to sound like I'm evading that question, but it is very difficult to define in terms of just a dollar amount, $750,000. I quickly did the math on that. And as I mentioned, in our view, 300 acres is more like a small grower as it stands right now. Years ago, that was different. As I mentioned, years ago, that was more like a 40-acre grower. Well, $750,000 is $2,500 an acre for that grower. If we're talking gross receipts, that doesn't even pay its farming costs. If we're talking about net overall receipts, yeah, that gets them a little bit closer. But as I mentioned, when you have situations like you have in California, where either you have to engage in a battle with the ACP, or on top of that, pay for water if you can get it, which was prior $200 per acre foot, to now you potentially could be paying well over $3,000 per acre just for water. So certainly not meaning to evade the question, but I think just a dollar figure may not adequately address the issue.
Ranking Member Ming, I've got an analogy about that. My grandfather made his living on 200 acres of farmland, raised 3 daughters, put them all through school. If I tried to do that today, I'd probably starve to death. So things have just changed dramatically, and it's hard to put a number on it. But you know, I wished I could do what my grandfather was able to do, because I'd rather just farm 200 acres than killing myself trying to do more and more and more. But it's just a different day and a different time, and costs keep increasing.
Is there a better standard or measure that you think the federal government should use to more accurately reflect what determines a farm to be a small business or not?
Ranking Member Ming, I believe revenue is the easiest measure, but I do believe it needs to be increased. The $750,000 for the small business is too low.
Thank you. Where do each of you see your industry in the next decade or so, especially considering the numerous challenges you faced? What is the most pressing issue for small citrus operations, and what's the best way for us to assist your industry? For example, increased funding, amending regulations, trade policy, tax breaks. What's your wish list?
All of the above.
All of the above.
I would agree with Dale, Mr. Merton, pardon me. Certainly the trade issues that are before us are very important to California. We export a very high percentage of our crop, and export is certainly important to us, and it's a large source of our growers' revenue. So from a California perspective, we support TPA, and we would like to see that pass. As I look to the future of the California industry, I'm always optimistic. I think any grower, any farmer is optimistic. That's how they live life. They make a bet on an entire year that they're going to be able to recover their costs and make some. So from a perspective of just who we are, we're optimistic. When we look at the challenges coming at us, whether it be HLB or ACP or water or any of the regulatory issues, as mentioned before, the regulatory issues specifically impinge on a small grower, because generally a larger grower hires people to take care of that stuff. The smaller grower is his people. He takes care of those particular issues. Additionally, I would say that as far as the water issues are concerned in California, if we don't resolve some of those very soon, as I mentioned before, if you can get water, you've seen a radical change in the amount of money that it takes to farm per acre.
Thank you, Ms. Meng. I'd now like to introduce and recognize my colleague from California, Mr. Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the indulgence. I don't sit on this subcommittee, but I did have a couple questions, and mostly for Mr. Severance. I appreciate you doing what you do. It's difficult out there, and there's nothing like the water issue in California. I cannot impress upon that enough. I think that when I talk to my other colleagues in Congress, there's nothing that we talk about more. I tell them this is a national emergency. You don't understand what's happening in California, and I think that they will come about August of this year. You will see the impacts. But the zero allocation, I think that people don't get that you don't get any water unless you are pumping it from the aquifer or from your wells. That is how we're getting water to our farms in California right now. And the aquifers are being depleted in some areas. Some areas have plumes that they cannot be taken out of anymore, and it's getting more and more difficult. But my questions are more specific to what we're talking about today with the disease that is happening. I understand in Florida that it is taken over many of the areas. Has the California legislature taken this as an issue? Have they seen this as something that could strike the citrus industry in California? Or are we waiting until this becomes a bigger problem?
Absolutely not. A number of years ago, Assembly Bill 281 created the Citrus Pest and Disease Prevention Committee in California. I happen to be Secretary-Treasurer of that particular committee. We assess all of our growers about 8 cents a carton. It brings in somewhere between $15 to $18 million per year for us to fund this program that's involved in trapping and suppression and, in the case of finding HLB, eradication were that to happen. And so far, while we have had a spread of the psyllid in the Southern California area, in the Central California area, we've been much more successful. And so far, we've had one tree, as I mentioned earlier, that was discovered in Southern California with HLB. It's since been removed. We've continued to test the trees all around it and have had none of those trees come up positive. So there has been a response in California to this in a positive sense. Our industry works directly with CDFA and USDA in administering this program, and we were, in an unfortunate way, fortunate enough to see what had happened in Florida and received advice from them on being proactive in this. And that's a lot what generated or initiated our CPDPC program.
Okay. And I guess my next question is to Dr. Rogers. Have you seen in the last maybe a couple of years that Florida has been going through this advancements that are now making it so we can extend a orchard to where we couldn't have 4 years ago? Or
Yes, absolutely. We've definitely made a lot of advancements, and as we've learned more about this disease, we're learning how not only to better manage the psyllid and slow down the disease spread, but once the trees are infected, we're learning more about how that pathogen moves in the tree, how it affects the tree. And ultimately, we're looking at a lot of things like enhanced nutritional programs and better watering, the effects of soil pH and bicarbonates. Some of these issues come together, and when we address those issues, I'm not saying we're going to resolve the disease or cure it, but we can pretty much maintain trees for a number of years longer than maybe we could have in the past. Because if we weren't at that point now, most of the trees would be dead. And that doesn't mean that we've got a lot of, we've bought ourselves a whole lot of time, because we really haven't. We've been living on borrowed time for quite a while now. And so we are seeing small growers going out of business weekly.
Okay. And Mr. Merton, you brought up a subject, the Mexican fruit fly that we've been dealing with for many years. Tell me how that's affecting in Texas. Is it affecting the situation worse than it was 20 years ago? Have we kind of maintained this?
I think it's probably worse, and there's lots of reasons and lots of blame to go around, I guess, if you will. We've got a real aging rearing facility down there. It's like a 1940s Army barracks Moorfield Air Base that was back in World War II. That's our rearing facility. It's in disrepair. We've got the issues along the border with Mexico. Our counterparts in Mexico can't go out and do the trapping, the scouting, or the releases because of the violence along the border. So we've got several issues going on. The dooryard properties, in our case, is a huge problem. They go untreated while we treat in the groves. You won't find the fruit fly in the grove, but due to the current quarantine restrictions, if the fly was found in the backyard, it's going to affect the adjacent grove from harvest.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for bringing this forward and talking about this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Ms. Lawrence, you're now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Black, first I want to commend you for your rich tradition of your family business and your contributions to the economy and the jobs you provide in the community. Thank you. While citrus farms are not prominent in Michigan as in Florida and California, we do rank, I just want to brag, we do rank #1 nationally in production of blueberries and tart cherries. So we have our claim to fame. In your testimony, you talk about the changing the tax code to allow growers to immediately expense costs in the year that they take place. Mr. Black, can you elaborate on the need for the change and how it benefits citrus growers? And would the government experience any costs? And if so, would they be substantial? Can you comment on that, please?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Lawrence. The proposal to change the tax code would offer an incentive for growers to plant trees, to increase and accelerate the pace they're replanting. Currently, growers have to capitalize the cost of the trees and the pre-production cost, all of the labor, spray, water, et cetera, for 4 years. And then at the end of 4 years, they place that asset in service and depreciate that asset for a period of 10 years. What our industry is proposing is similar to Section 1 depreciation that allows for the immediate expensing of those assets when they're purchased. It's really a timing issue. The grower is allowed to deduct the same expenses as he would under the current model, but rather than over a 14-year period, it would be immediate expensing. So the cost would be the interest cost for the government to delay those tax receipts over the 14-year period as opposed to receiving them right away.
would this change have an impact, or this incentive, do you see it going across other types of fruit industries as well? Are you advocating for this to be a change in the code that would impact all growers?
No, the current legislation is solely for citrus trees across the United States and in all industries. But no, we do not propose expanding that initiative. But I think, in my opinion, the Section 179 depreciation allowance has been very effective to stimulate the economy and increase the capital spend by businesses.
Thank you. Any other members of the panel would like to comment on the tax code? My last question is, we talked about the fruit flies, and I think it was Mr. Munder that commented on that. You talked about what you're currently doing to mitigate it. What are the costs? What would it cost to mitigate the fruit flies? And do you have, as far as the government, how can we partner with you in that?
We actually already are. APHIS is a very strong partner in that, and it actually is kind of a three-pronged approach. The growers have an assessment that they kick into this eradication program and scouting program. Our Department of Agriculture does as well in Texas, and APHIS carries the lion's share. We've just got lots of problems and lots of needs. The biggest and foremost is that aging facility down there, and trying to get it in a budget for USDA to redo. I think the last estimate I heard to rebuild that facility is close to $30 million.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Yield
you.
back.
Thank you, Ms. Lawrence. I recognize myself for 5 minutes. Mr. Severns, your comments on TPA are timely, as it seems like the House will be considering this legislation tomorrow. Can you expound on your support for TPA? I think there's an assumption that most in the agriculture industry would be opposed. Could you comment a little more on why you are supportive, and if anyone else would like to comment, and maybe perhaps with differing views, you're welcome to do so as well.
As I mentioned before, we export a very significant portion of our crop, and allowing that authority, that negotiation authority, and being able to work these issues out on a timely basis are crucial to where we are even at this time in negotiations with different countries on export issues. I might mention that by virtue of the fact that we do export the amount that we do, it's important that that authority be extended, and in so doing, we're able to maintain those markets and maintain those negotiations and work through some of these issues on a timely basis. And if we don't have these crucial export markets, there's only a few other things that can happen, and one of those things is that fruit dumps back onto the domestic market. Domestic consumption, while improving, has been relatively flat over the last number of years. So that domestic or that export market, in addition to being an outlet other than the domestic market, also is a place where we can really excel, and it's been very important to the growers' overall return to be able to participate in those export markets. We deal primarily over in Southeast Asia, Japan, and Korea. Those countries are very important to us.
Anyone else have any views on free trade that they may want to share, whether specific to the current TPA proposal?
I agree with everything Kevin said, actually. I'll put on one of my other farming hats right now. China is one of our largest markets. So I think it's very important.
I would like to add trade is a very important part of our business, but also recognize that both HLB and the Asian citrus psyllid are invasive. They're not native to our state or our country. So as any part of a trade agreement, please consider port inspections, et cetera, to keep our domestic industries across all agriculture safe.
Thank you for for those comments. And in fact, as I understand it, higher standards for agriculture are one of the key goals of the current TPA that we're considering. I'll ask about the H-2A visa program. This is a program that allows certain American employers to bring foreign nationals to the United States, skilled temporary or seasonal agricultural jobs for which American workers are not available. Can you describe the extent to which you H-2A workers to help harvest your fruit? And what challenges have you encountered in ensuring you have a sufficient labor force to do the work needed on a timely basis?
Chairman Corbello?
Why?
Yes. Our business does not engage H-2A workers. We have been fortunate that we have been able to pull on our local labor pool and have not had to file a petition for H-2A workers. However, approximately 80% of the Florida crop is harvested by H-2A workers. So it's very important to the Florida industry, and there are definitely changes in the H-2A program that would be welcome for all of agriculture to make that process easier for growers when they need to source workers to harvest their crops and other ag work.
We in California tried the H-2A program in the context that we did try it. It didn't work very well for us, to be very frank about it. I don't know that I'd throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. I think there were just some logistical and communication issues that made it very difficult. But at this time, we don't use any H-2A workers.